Come and I will sing you.
What shall I sing you?
I will sing you one of them.
What shall be the one of them?
One is one and alone. Come to me, come and me alone, and never shall remain so. Come and I will sing you.
What shall I sing you?
I will sing you two of them.
What shall be the two of them?
To the Christmas babes in green. One is one and alone. Come to me, come and me alone, and never shall remain so. Come and I will sing you.
What shall I sing you?
I will sing you three of them.
What shall be the three of them?
Three that's in the fleet.
Two of the Christmas babes in green.
One is all alone. Come to me, come and me alone, and never shall remain so. Come and I will sing you.
What shall I sing you?
I will sing you four of them.
What shall be the four of them?
For the carolers at the door.
Three of the three that's in the fleet. Two of the Christmas babes in green.
One is all alone. Come to me, come and me alone, and
Never shall remain so.
come and I will sing you.
What shall I sing you?
I will sing you five of them.
What shall be the five of them?
Five of the oxen standing by.
Four of the carolers at the door. Three of the three that's in the fleet. Two of the Christmas babes in green.
One
and all alone.
come to me, come and me alone, and
Never shall remain so.
come and I will sing you.
What shall I sing you?
I will sing you six of them.
What shall be the six of them?
Six of the six that never did mix.
Five of the oxen standing by. Four of the carolers at the door. Three of the three that's in the fleet. Two of the Christmas babes in green.
One
and all alone.
come to me, come and me
alone, and never shall remain so.
come and I will sing you.
What shall I sing you?
I will sing you seven of them.
What shall be the seven of them?
Seven of the shiners up in the sky.
Six of the six that never did mix. Five of the oxen standing by. Four of the carolers at the door. Three of the three that's in the fleet. Two of the Christmas babes in green.
One
and all alone. Come to me, come and me
alone,
and never shall remain so.
come and I will sing you.
What shall I sing you?
I will sing you eight of them.
What shall be the eight of them?
Eight of them are the really shine white. Seven of the shiners up in the sky. Six of the six that never did mix. Five of the oxen standing by. Four of the carolers at the door. Three of the three that's in their fleet. Two of the Christmas babes in green. One is all alone. Come to me, come and me alone,
And never shall remain so.
come and I will sing you.
What shall I sing you?
I will sing you nine of them.
What shall be the nine of them?
Nine of them said Mary Ann. Eight of them are the really shine white.
Seven of the shiners up in the sky. Six that never did mix. Five of the oxen standing by. Four of the carolers at the door. Three of the three that's in the fleet. Two of the Christmas babes in green. One and all alone.
Come to me, come and me alone,
And never shall remain so.
come and
I will sing you.
what shall I sing you?
I will sing you 10 of them.
What shall be the 10 of them?
10 of the 10 commandments.
Nine of them said Mary Ann.
8 of them are the really shine white.
Seven of the shiners up in the sky.
Six of the six that never did mix. Five of the oxen standing by. Four of the carolers at the door. Three of the three that's in the fleet. Two of the Christmas babes in green. One is all alone.
Come to me, come and me alone,
And never shall remain so.
come and I will sing you.
What shall I sing you?
I will sing you 11 of them.
What shall be the 11 of them?
11 all come to heaven. 10
of the 10 commandments. 9 of them said Mary Ann.
8 of them are the really shine white.
Seven of the shiners up in the sky. Six that never did mix. Five of the oxen standing by. Four of the carolers at the door. Three of the three that's in the fleet. Two of the Christmas babes in green. One is all alone. Come to me, come and shall I sing you?
I will sing you 12 of them.
What shall be the 12 of them?
12 of the followers all in a row.
Welcome to heaven, 10 commandments, 9
Bands and Mary Ann,
8 of them are the
feathers shine white. 7 of the shiners up in the sky. 6 of the sixth and heaven in mist. 5 of the oxen standing by. 4 of the gallows at my door. 3 of the 2. One is one and all alone.
Come to the union of the valley, come to the alone, and never shall remain so.
And welcome. We are Windbourne. This is Jeremy, Lynn, Will, and I'm Lauren, and we are so glad to be here for the kickoff of the Winter Stroll this December 1st. We are a vocal group. We sing traditional songs from the U.S. and countries and cultures all around the world. So you'll get to hear a little bit of a lot of different things today. In addition to some holiday songs, we are also, in particular right now, touring with a project called Song on the Times, which is a collection of songs of social struggle, songs from movements for people's rights from throughout the past 400 years, sung for some of the struggles that we face in today's times. So that first piece was just a piece to kick off the holiday spirit. It's a song called Come and I Will Sing You that I learned from my dad, who sang for 40 years with a folk group called Noel Sing Me Clear that toured in December with Songs of the Season. But we're going to sing you now a piece from not so far away from here, from Lawrence, Massachusetts, that came out of a movement known as the Bread and Roses Strike, familiar to many of you, I'm sure. And it was called the Bread and Roses Strike because of a speech given by the great union activist and organizer Rose Schneiderman, who said, "What the woman that labors wants is the right to live, not simply exist. The right to life as the rich woman has the right to life, and the sun, and music, and art. The worker must have bread, but she must have roses too." And so we felt particularly strongly about including Bread and Roses in our Song on the Times project for people's rights, because it's not only a piece about workers' rights, but also an intersection between women's rights and immigrant rights, since the textile industry at that time in New England was mostly women workers, and many of them also immigrants. So this is Windbourne's particular take on Bread and Roses.
As we go marching, marching in the beauty of the day, a million darkened kitchens, 1,000 millocks gray, are touched with all the radiance that a sudden sun discloses. For the people hear us singing, bread and roses, bread and roses. As we go marching, marching in the beauty of the day, a million darkened kitchens, 1,000 millocks gray, are touched with all the radiance that a sudden sun discloses. For the people hear us singing, bread and roses, bread and roses. As we go marching, marching, we fight for children too, for they are watching, learning, and they'll make the world anew. Our life shall not be sweated from birth until life closes. Hearts starve as well as bodies. Give us bread, but give us roses. As we go marching, marching, a number marching, marching, together we stand tall. For the rising of the women means the rising of us all. No more the drudge and idler tend that toil where one reposes, but a sharing of life's glories, bread and roses, 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 bread and roses. Give us bread, but give us roses, give us roses, bread and roses, bread and roses, bread and roses, bread and roses.
So last year we got invited to do a pretty cool thing, a show called Christmas Celtic Sojourn that happens in Boston and also tours to Worcester and New Bedford and Providence. These next two songs were things that we worked up for that show, and we're really pleased to say that we got invited back. We're going to be doing that again this month.
It runs for about 2 weeks, so you should come and check it out. Christmas Celtic Sojourn.
So we're going to sing two songs. The first is called The Holy Holly, and it's a little bit of a mashup between the holly and the ivy and the cherry tree carol, if you're familiar with either of those. It's actually a tune written by the Scottish songwriter Ali Burns, and the second one is an old traditional English tune called Shepherds Arise.
The holly and the ivy, when both are full grown, of all the trees that are in the wood, the holly bears the crown, and sing, holy, holy, and sing, holy, and of all the trees that are in the wood, it is the holly. Oh, Joseph and Mary walked through an orchard good, where there were cherries and berries as red as any blood, and sing, holy, holy, and sing, holy, and of all the trees that are in the wood, it is the holly. Then up spoke sweet Mary, so meek and so mild, pluck me cherries, Joseph, for I am with child, and sing, holy, holy, and sing, holy, and of all the trees that are in the wood, it is the holly. And then bespoke Joseph with words so reviled, let him bring thee cherries, Mary, that brought thee with child, and sing, holy, holy, and sing, holy, and of all the trees that are in the wood, it is the holly. Then up spoke sweet Jesus, all in his mother's womb, bow down then, thou tallest tree, that my mother might have some, and sing, holy, holy, and sing, holy, and of all the trees that are in the wood, it is the holly. The holly and the ivy, now both are full grown, of all the trees that are in the wood, the holly bears the crown, and sing, holy, holy, and holy, and of all the trees that are in the wood, it is the holly. Sing, holy, holy, and holy, and of all the trees that
are in the wood. It is the holly. Shepherds arise, be not afraid, with hasty steps repair. To David's city sing all earth, unto our blessed King, unto our blessed King, to our blessed infant fair, to our blessed infant fair. Sing, sing all earth, sing, sing all earth, eternal praise, sing to our Redeemer, and our heavenly King. Laid in the manger, view the child, humility divine, sweet innocence, so meek and mild. Grace in his feet, grace shine, grace shine, grace in his features shine, grace in his features shine. Sing, sing all earth, sing, sing all earth, eternal praises sing to our Redeemer, and our heavenly King. For us a Savior came on earth, for us his life he gave, to save us from eternal death, and to raise us from the grave, to raise us from the grave. Sing, sing all earth, sing, sing all earth, eternal praises sing to our Redeemer, and our heavenly King. Sing, sing all earth, sing, sing all earth, eternal praises sing to our Redeemer, and our heavenly King.
So we sing a lot of our music in English, but we also study and search out and perform songs from many different countries and cultures that have styles of harmony singing from around the world. And this next song is one of those, and it's from Basque Country, which is a region that sort of straddles in between Spain and France. It's not a politically independent entity, but it's a quite distinct cultural region that has its own music and culture and dance and food and language. It's a language isolate, so it's not related to either French or Spanish or actually any other known language in the world. And this is a love song. It comes from Basque Country, from a town on the French side of Basque Country. And the lyrics, the translation of the song says, "My love is always on my mind wherever I go, and I bring her pink carnations, because when I'm with her, I forget the rest of the world, and my whole body feels like it is melting like butter under a hot knife." It's called Ventativ Nator.
My
going to do something from considerably closer, but still not in English. This is a tune from Canadian province of Quebec that we recorded on our album Midwinter Meeting. And it's a story about a prince who is riding down the road and he sees a house, and behind the house there's a pond and there's some ducks in it. He decides it's the perfect moment to go on a hunt. So he grabs a silver rifle that he just happened to have with him and starts shooting at all the ducks. And he doesn't have very good aim. He misses several of them. He manages to finally shoot one of them, and there's feathers flying everywhere, and the duck's just sort of, crying diamonds and coughing up coal, no big deal. And then he leaves the mess behind, and there's some women passing by who see the feathers and decide to stuff them into mattresses so that travelers can have a place to lie down. I'm not sure what the moral of the story is, but it's a pretty popular tune in Quebec. Enough that there's a few different tunes to this, and in fact we couldn't decide which one we wanted to do, so we did two of them. Hey.
Very much. So we're going to come back to the English-speaking world, and we're going to sing you another song from the Song and Times Project, the Songs of Social Struggle. And this is a song that comes from the 1840s, but has a pretty special place in our heart, because this is a project that we've been working on for a couple of years now, and about 2 years ago, January of 2017, we just launched a crowdfunder for this project. We have a little book with all the words and little essays by different historians and artists and activists and all sorts of great people, as well as the CD that's sort of tucked into that cover. We do have those with us, you can check those out afterwards. But we just sort of launched this project, planning to make maybe 200 or so of them. And we sang one of these songs when we were in New York, and we said, you know what, we should just go down to Fifth Avenue and sing one of these songs outside of this particularly shiny tower on Fifth Avenue. There's a little video that came out of that a million people saw on Facebook or on YouTube. And all of a sudden, people were writing to us and saying, hey, will you come and sing these songs? And so we went from being a band that toured maybe 1 week out of the year to now, this for the past year, we've made bringing this music and this message around the country and around the world our full-time job, which is something that's really exciting for us. And this is the song that sort of started it, so we're going to sing the whole thing for you now, not just a little 30-second clip. And as I said, mentioned, it comes from England in the 1840s, and unfortunately it's remained relevant enough in the interceding 180 years that people have kept adding verses to it. And we've continued in that tradition, and we've also, the melody is by Ian Robb, the Canadian group Finest Kind. It's a song of the lower classes.
We plow and sow, we are so low that we delve in the dirty clay, till we bless the plain with golden grain and the vale with the fragrant hay. Our place we know, we are so low down at the landlord's feet. We're not too low the bread to grow, but too low the bread to eat. We're low, we are so low, yet from our fingers glide the silken flow and the robes that glow round the limbs of the sons of pride. And what we get and what we give, we know and we know our share. We're not too low the cloth to weave, but too low the cloth to wear. Down, down we go, we are so low to the hell of the deep sunk mine. But we gather the proudest gems that glow, and the crown of the despot shines. Whenever he lacks upon our backs fresh loads he deigns to lay, we're far too low to vote the tax, but not too low to pay. We're low as to war we go to fight some foreign country. That was yesterday our greatest friend, but today's our enemy. God bless our boys, the papers scream, praise them the churchmen cry. When the war is won and home we come, who cares if we live or die? We're low, so low into boats we go to flee war in our home country. And we'll try to make a better life when we land across the sea. But it's send them back, the press cries out, back to where they came. We're far too low to feed and clothe, but not too low to blame. We are so low, but soon we know that the people shall hear the people's cries. No more shall they hold us in thrall, their lies we will not heed. But every heart shall hear the call, and the people will be free.
Thank you. Yeah, there's plenty of seats over here if you want to come on in.
Come straight to the front, don't worry about it.
Welcome. This next piece that we're going to sing is by the great Scottish composer and performer Ewan MacColl. And it comes off of an album that he released about 50 years ago called Traveling People, about Scottish travelers, sometimes called Roma, who are a group that is still quite persecuted in the British Isles today. There are still shops in some parts of Scotland that say, "No travelers served here." So it's a group that still faces a lot of adversity even in their home country. And this is a song where the political sort of seeps in around the edges. It's called The Terror Time, which refers to the winter. And for us, it really reminds us of the struggles faced by anyone who goes without a permanent home at this time of year. The Terror Time.
Streams will run cold and clear, and the small birds will be going. And it's then that you will be knowing that the terror time is near. Where will you turn now, and where will you bide, now that the work's all done? For the farmer doesn't need you, and the council will not heed you, and the terror time has come. The woods give no shelter, and the trees are all bare. Snow's falling all around, and the children, they are crying for the bed on which they are lying. ancient indigenous traditions of Europe. And also being singers, the two of us put together an album of songs for the season of Yule, for the winter solstice. It's an album full of, it's got a bunch of English traditional folk songs and wassails from that time of year, and also some newly composed pieces inspired by some of these indigenous traditions of Europe, and looking at where a lot of the modern Christmas traditions, a lot of where those roots come from, some of those traditions around, say, Christmas trees or wreaths and things like that. And so we'd like to sing you one song from that collection now. This is a wassail. It's Gower Wassail.
A wassail throughout all the town. Our carpet is white and our helmet is brown. Our wassail is made of good ale and cake, some nutmeg and ginger, the best we could pay. Fall the doll, fall the doll, the doll, fall the doll, the doll, fall the doll, the dee. Fall the Gerald, fall the daddy, sing to-ra-li-do. Our wassail is made of the elderberry bough, and so my good neighbor will drink unto thou. Besides all of that, you'll have apples in store. Pray let us come in, for it's cold by the door. Fall the doll, fall the doll, the doll, fall the doll, the doll, fall the doll, the dee. Fall the Gerald, fall the daddy, sing to-ra-li-do. It's we poor wassailers, so weary and cold. Please drop some small silver into our bowl. And if we survive for another new year, perhaps we may call and see who does live here. Fall the doll, fall the doll, the doll, fall the doll, the doll, fall the doll, the dee. Fall the Gerald, fall the daddy, sing to-ra-li-do. We know by the moon that we are not too soon, and we know by the sky that we are not too high. We know by the stars that we are not too far, and we know by the ground that we are within sound. Fall the doll, fall the doll, the doll, fall the doll, the doll, fall the doll, the dee. Fall the Gerald, fall the daddy, sing to-ra-li-do. We hope that your apple trees prosper and bear, so that we may have cider when we call next year. And where you've 1 barrel, we hope you'll have 10, so that we may have cider when we call again. Fall the doll, fall the doll, the doll, fall the doll, the doll, fall the doll, the dee. Fall the Gerald, fall the daddy, sing to-ra-li-do.
I'm going to sing you a song that's sort of adjacent to the Song of the Times project. It's part of the project, but not recorded on the album and CD. And this is by the great American labor songwriter Joe Hill. And Joe is an immigrant. He came over from Sweden in 1905. And 5 years later, in 1910, he worked his way across the country and was organizing and working with the newly formed Industrial Workers of the World, the IWW, or sometimes called the Wobblies. The IWW was one of the most important and influential labor unions of the 20th century. And of course, they had sort of their share of opponents, these lords of industry who didn't think so much about all of the labor, all of their workers fighting for things like 40-hour work weeks and higher pay, safe conditions, all of that. They weren't so keen on that. So they were opposed to IWW. But also there's some unexpected opponents that you might not anticipate. And one of these was the Salvation Army. And the Salvation Army thought that the IWW was making people spend far too much time focusing on making life here on Earth better, and not enough time with guarding people's eternal souls. And it wasn't just sort of a theoretical opposition. They would actually, in a time before much amplification, really of any sort, they would send their big marching band, the tubas and the big drums, and they'd march up and down in front of where the IWW was having speeches or holding rallies to try and prevent them from being able to get their message out to the world. And Joe Hill was sort of a clever guy, and he was a songwriter, and he didn't think much of this. And so the next time the Salvation Army tried this trick, and they were singing all of these hymns that sort of had this message of, work hard, don't make a fuss, and you'll be rewarded in the afterlife. Yeah. And they came along trying to sing these songs, and all of a sudden, all the workers burst into song with new lyrics, making fun of the Salvation Army. And so they did a song called In the Sweet By and By. You can sort of imagine how that might go. And by the time Joe was done with it, it said, "You will eat by and by in that glorious land above the sky. Work and pray, live on hay, you'll get pie in the sky when you die. That's a lie." And that's the chorus, so when you pick up the chorus, you can feel free to join in. It's called Return the Slave, or Pie in the Sky.
You will eat by and by in that glorious land above the sky. Work and pray, live on
the sky when you die. There's no pie in the sky when you die. There's just sky.
Thank you. We all grew up singing with a summer camp called Village Harmony, which leads camps for both teenagers and also for adults. And so we highly recommend you check it out. It's an amazing opportunity to get to sing harmonies like what you're hearing, and it's what inspired us to keep singing music together. And this is a song that we learned from that community called When I Can Read My Titles Clear. And we discovered that some other lyrics fit pretty well to it too. And you may recognize these other words that we decided to put to it.
Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose. And if you ever saw it, you would even say it glows. All of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names. They never let poor Rudolph join in any reindeer games. Then, on one foggy Christmas Eve, old Santa came to say, "Oh, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight?" Then, how the reindeer loved him, and they shouted out with glee, "Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you'll go down in history, go down in history."
Thank you so much. We have one more song for you, but before we do that, I want to thank everyone here at Leominster Public Library for having us out, and for the folks who helped set up, and for the local cable network who's here filming it for, as they say, posterity and nothing else. But we're going to finish with one more song. This is by our great friend Joe James. And it's a song that I think about during this time of year, remembering that the Christmas story is a story of outsiders. It's a story of a family, refugees, who were not given a place at the inn and were made to wait in the stable. It's a story of those who do without. And we think that that's an important story to remember, and remember that that is the Christmas story. And so this is a song that Joe wrote, called Lady of the Harbor, and it refers to the Statue of Liberty. We are Windbourne. Thank you very much.
From far away and distant lands, the tempest tossed with hopeful hearts and calloused hands, reach for the light, the torch held high, and cast their gaze upon the lady on the harbor.
knocking down the borders, and we're filling up the jails, and we say they don't belong. How conveniently do we forget that we've all come to sing the same sweet song? Will the dream survive the strain? Will huddled masses have a chance to learn its sweet refrain? Or will we fall into our fear?